Welcome back to All Sides. I'm your host, Dan Fisher. In light of the proposed 7% ticket tax for Columbus cultural and sporting events to fund the arts and upgrades for Nationwide Arena, we've been talking about how other communities fund their arts. In Pittsburgh, a large portion of their sales tax, about $11.5 million, is distributed to the arts each year. Joining us by phone is the CEO of the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council and former executive director of the Jazz Arts Group in Columbus, Mitch Swain. Welcome to the show, Mitch.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Also by phone is founder and CEO of Easy Peasy Ticketing and HometownTicket.com, Nate Nail. Nate is also a member of the Ticket Tax Coalition. That's a group of 50 Columbus event organizers concerned that the ticket tax would affect attendance at their events. Nate Nail, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ann. Thanks for having me. Hey, Mitch. How are you today, sir?
And also with us, Jamie Goldstein. She's Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Events for the Greater Columbus Arts Council. It sounds like you have a lot of jobs, Jamie. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, Ann.
Jamie, we've been talking. We heard from Austin. We heard from Milwaukee. We're going to hear from Pittsburgh about how they fund the arts. What went into your conversations over the last several months when you came up with this proposal?
Well, actually, this is something that and that Columbus has been studying for more than 15 years. We know, and we have known for some time, that we are dramatically underfunded publicly in the arts in Columbus. And that happens because of the different ways, as you've seen, that people fund the arts and the variety of mechanisms that are used across the country and even within our own state. In 2012, the Funding Review and Advisory Committee met to look at the hotel motel bed tax, which is how GCAC currently receives funding for the arts in Columbus, and try and find a way to do some redistribution of it to get us a little more money and get Experience Columbus a little more money to continue to drive this upward trajectory of attendance and visitorship in Columbus. Since that time, one of the key things they recognized at the FRAC, that the Funding Review and Advisory Committee, that additional public funding was going to be needed, that what their recommendations were for the bed tax would not solve the problem. So in that 6 years since, we have been looking at the variety of mechanisms that were recommended. One of them was casino revenue. We all know how that's gone. The number one recommendation,
just for those of you
exactly,
out there, yeah.
And that's part of why Nationwide is in trouble. Nationwide Arena is in trouble. The number one recommendation was an admissions fee. So we looked at that, but we have also spent the past 3 years looking at 13 other options for public funds. That includes property taxes or rental car fees or conveyance fees, income tax, really everything across the board in terms of what would be the appropriate mechanism and what is, according to public sentiment as well as what's possible legislatively, what can we get done? So about a year ago, we landed on the ticket fee and started meeting with our arts organizations and elected officials to see if this was something that they thought would be doable in Columbus. And, until now, we've been given the green light, and that's how we were able to submit this proposal to City Council. And we feel this is the right solution for Columbus because we do things differently here. We all know about the Columbus Way and public-private partnerships and how successful they are in Columbus. And we also feel that this is a fair way to fund it because the majority of people who attend concerts at the Shot and the Shoe and Nationwide Arena come from outside Franklin County. So we're broadening. It's a very broad-based tax that enables the people using and enjoying the arts and cultural and other types of entertainment programming in Columbus to help put money back into the community to support it.
And this is in addition to the hotel bed tax.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So, Nate Nail, what's the problem? I mean, the proposal has been amended to not affect smaller venues, 400 or fewer seats, and smaller cost events, $10 or less. What's your concern going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a few things. In regards to Jamie's statement with it being underfunded, I guess my question would be in regards to what measuring stick. The GCAC and Jamie and her team do some incredible things. They've won some awards the past couple of years and really doing a lot of great things for our community. So are we saying we're underfunded just based on measuring it from what other cities are doing instead of just looking at what we're able to do with our funds here?
Well, Megan Wells from the city of Austin said they were doing a bed tax, and that was fine for a while, but they've broadened their reach. They're more interested and increasingly interested in emerging artists and emerging artists programs. Is that sort of what Columbus has come up against? The bed tax was fine for a while, but now as you expand your mission?
That is correct. There have been other cultural institutions added to our operating support list. Our cultural institutions already do have a tremendous impact in the community, whether it's through COSI's First Free Fridays, which gives free admission every Friday to underserved communities and families, to the 300,000 children they reach every year, to Franklin Park Conservatory's community gardens. Public funding is the kind of thing that helps support those kinds of programs in the community, but we know we can do more. We already reach, through our arts organizations programming, 750 school children every year. We know we need to do more. As schools start to cut back on arts education and other kinds of programming, like busing to arts activities, we know that we'll need to step up, and our arts organizations will need to step up to be able to do more. And we do need to fund artists and emerging programs.
Nate?
But we shouldn't do more on the backs of these small businesses, in my opinion. To answer your question, and in regards to the addendums that have been placed for the smaller venues, that's a step in the right direction. But something to consider is, just because these events have larger budgets doesn't mean that they're profitable, right? So these larger events actually take a greater risk in bringing in top-tier entertainment, and they're required to sell a lot more tickets just to reach that profitability mark. And they have to spend a lot more money on advertising and promoting those events as well. So, the 400-person or less addendum is great for the smaller venues, but what about these larger operations that take a greater risk, and they're going to be subjected to paying this tax, which, in my opinion, will hurt attendance, and whether that is a profitable event or not, they're going to be funding GCAC and in part Nationwide Arena, which in fact both organizations, one could argue, are putting on events that could compete with the events with the other events that are actually subject to this tax. Right?
Okay. So, Mitch Swain, I wanted you to chime in here from the Pittsburgh point of view. Pittsburgh is not unlike Cleveland. There's a lot of endowment money in the city of Pittsburgh, is there not?
Yes, that's very much the case. I mean, when I moved from Columbus and came to work in the arts in Pittsburgh, there were two things that really jumped out at me, I was, when I was in Columbus, was a recipient of a annual operating grant from Greater Columbus Arts Council, and looking at it, just sitting there as an arts administrator in Columbus, I just thought that was a great thing, and then came to Pittsburgh and saw the difference in foundation funding, but also in tax funding that comes from the Allegheny Regional Asset District, and that taxing district, which is a county-wide proposal, that adds an additional 1% sales tax to almost everything that's sold in the county, and of that, about 13%, actually 12% now, 13% next year, comes to the arts. And when you take into account that kind of funding, which amounts to in the neighborhood of about $12 million, and then the really strong support of the foundation community, it really helps to build the infrastructure and maintain high quality operations of arts and cultural organizations. The other thing it does is it means that we are less reliant on spending all the time and money to raise money from individuals and from corporations. And so to have reliable funding that comes every year that you can count on, whether you have a good year or a bad year, and that helps you to keep your ticket prices low, helps you with outreach programs, helps you with education programs, really, really means a whole lot. And I can really see why this makes a whole lot of sense in Columbus. I think it was really smart to get the Columbus arts community to be willing to tax itself. In effect, the people who are paying this are not the organizations, they're a pass-through. The people who are paying this are the people that are going through the turnstiles, either because they're going to the theaters, they're going to other spaces, and it was really, I think, really smart to get the other venues in place to help support this too, because as you look at, and I come back to Columbus all the time, and my dad lives there, and I've got family and friends there, and you can see the growth of that community that's happening all the time. I left there right when the Nationwide Arena was opening, and you can really see how this would help to position an important aspect of your community, the arts and culture, and facilities, to grow, to be able to take care of themselves, to do needed upgrades. That is so important here in Pittsburgh, and what we call RAD, Regional Asset District, is something that we are really fortunate to have.
Jamie, what about something like the Regional Asset District? Is that something that's not possible in Ohio, or just wasn't considered?
Sales tax was one of the things that we considered.
Like a regional sales tax?
No, I don't know actually about the. I think Mitch, you'd have to answer me. Is that a multi-county thing?
It's a one county thing, and it was a great solution to a Pittsburgh problem.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how applicable that model is to the Columbus situation, because that's different.
Yeah. Well, and every community sales tax goes to different things, and it's at a different level. We just had a 0.25% that was extended. I have to remind everybody, there is no sales tax on admissions or tickets in Franklin County right now. So essentially, that's kind of what we're talking about. We call it a ticket fee because that's what the Ohio Revised Code, state law, allows municipalities to do. 64 other cities have done that in Ohio. This would be like a sales tax on tickets and admissions, but it's actually less than the 7.25% sales tax that exists in Franklin County. So,
and Nate Nail, I wanted to ask you, it does now exclude those smaller venues and there's those lower price events.
Correct, yeah, but as I was stating earlier, and the larger events actually have a much greater risk in reaching profitability, anyways. And then let me also just talk about the fees that that guests are already subject to right now. For example, we have an event coming up on November 2nd for Jim Gaffigan, and a guest right now is currently subject to a $35 processing fee online through Ticketmaster. So if this were to pass, we would add an additional $14.25 to that ticket. That's $49.25 of fees.
Wait, a $35 processing fee?
That is correct. And so if you add this tax on top of all the other outrageous fees that are out there, it just doesn't seem fair to somebody for anybody that we want to come into our city to enjoy any events.
I obviously haven't been to a big event lately, but
I certainly can't speak to the Ticketmaster fees. None of those monies stay in this community. None of the monies or the profits that are made by the big promoters who Nate is referencing. Basically, he's talking about Feld Entertainment, AEG, Belkin Productions that use the big arenas for those. All those people have their businesses in other places. They take whatever profits they get and they go back home. And so this is about asking people who.
Okay,
you know what?
That's not entirely true, because as you said earlier, Jamie, the majority of the people that are coming to these big events are coming from out of town. So when they come from out of town, they're typically staying in hotels, which goes into the bed tax, and they're also spending money at local restaurants and supporting our local economy.
I'm not discounting the benefit of having people from outside the city generate funds for our good city. I'm talking about the businesses who profit off of them.
Nate Nail, we are out of time, and I do thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
Nate Nail, founder and CEO of HometownTicketing.com. It's also part of a coalition. It's called the Ticket Tax Coalition, a group of 50 Columbus event organizers organizers that oppose the proposed ticket tax. Jamie Goldstein, Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Events for the Greater Columbus Arts Council, which has put forth the proposed ticket tax. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ann. It was great to be here.
And Mitch Swain, CEO of the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council, former Executive Director of the Jazz Arts Group in Columbus. Thanks, Mitch, for your participation today as well.
Thanks, Dan.
That's all the time we have. We'll probably be covering this issue as it develops, so don't forget to stay tuned, stay listening, and thanks for all your attention today. This is All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News.